are from very opposing backgrounds. So she's from Luxembourg. She grew up in Luxembourg and came to the UK through university. And I'm from Southeast London. I'm from Croydon. I don't know why people just don't say where they're from. I'm from Croydon. Shout out to Croydon. Shout out to all my gang. And I grew up in a working class background, really grinding and struggling. And I'm obviously from two different races, and she is white and she grew up in a middle class background. So we're very opposing, but we have such similar views, which is very powerful and very amazing to see. But obviously our different cultures and different backgrounds influences our different answers as well.
Oh, hey everyone, hope you're doing well, hope you're looking after yourselves. Yeah, we can't believe it. The last episode of season 4. We've come far, we've come through thick and thin. You've heard me do these introductions and you're still here, and we always appreciate that. But yeah, we've officially on the last episode of season 4, and it's been a great season so far. Really enjoyed all the conversations, and as I always say, we've got another amazing conversation today. And we with our introductions, and I always say it, and you're probably tired of me saying it at this point, but I don't want to bore you with the details of the speaker, because I know you guys, you want to hear it from the speaker themselves. You want to hear about the amazing guests that we've got today. So I'm going to hand over to our guest speaker if she could just tell us a bit about herself and introduce herself to you.
So, hi, thank you for having me, firstly. My name is Shania King-Soyza. I'm 22 from Southeast London. I am currently a journalist. I do both digital reporting for the Daily Express, and I'm a freelancer for Vice. I'm currently doing my master's degree in arts and lifestyle journalism, and I love writing. I'm currently doing a podcast, but it's on pause at the moment, and hopefully it will start back up. But I enjoy all things presenting, writing, and storytelling.
Oh, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. And you can tell already that Shania is a multi-talented, doing multiple things.
Try.
No, it's honestly, it's really like when I saw the stuff that you put on for your speaker page, I was just like, wow, this is, you're doing all of these amazing things. That's so incredible. So yeah, it's really, really, no, thank you. And thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast. So as I'm sure our listeners probably can guess from your description, today's episode is all about, presenting, writing, and all that's in between. So we're going to be asking Shania some questions about not only her personal experience, but also, her podcasting experience as well. It's great to always have another podcaster on the podcast. Yeah, you'll just be. I guess if you want to, you can just take a note of how many times we say podcast in this episode, and just
It's gonna be a lot.
Well, I guess that nicely leads on to our first question, Shania. And essentially, our first question for you is all about why did you decide to go into journalism? Was it always the plan? Was journalism always the thing that you wanted to do? Was there anything else that sort of was in the mindset of you before? Just let us know.
So no, it wasn't at all, like in any aspect of the word. So I loved English. The only thing I was really good at growing up was English literature. So after A-levels, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do English literature, but where does that lead me? It's too open-ended. I need to find something else. And I love writing. So it was either do creative writing with it or find something else. And I didn't want to leave myself with limited options. I wanted to gain skills in other places. So I figured out what else I was passionate about, and film was one of them. So I went to Brunel. I did English literature and film and television studies, which was good. And I came out of it being like, yeah, I'm going to be a scriptwriter. Like that is the plan. I'm definitely going to be a scriptwriter. And the processes of getting there, I wasn't sure. Brunel was really good with building connections. I would give them that. Wasn't too keen on the uni, but the main thing they did was made sure that we had connections. So in film, we was able to talk and listen to speakers, and there was a guy who came on and he was like, yeah, you can go and join the BBC writers room and you could do this and do that. And it's like, oh, that's cool, but the likelihood of doing that is very hard, very difficult to get into. And one thing about me is I definitely value stability and being able to get into something to help myself and my family. So I thought, okay, I graduated. What do? I'm working in Sainsbury's. I hate it. I want to die. I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. So what do? So then I was like, okay, might as well do my master's. I love education. I love learning. But what do I want to do my master's in? So I've got skills in English literature. I've got skills in film and television studies, which is like learning how to edit, film, direct, also film analysis. So I've got all of that under my bag. So what else can I do? I really enjoyed writing blogs at one point. So for Brunel, I was a part of Brunel Times and I did their culture section. So I wrote for their film and TV section and I loved it. I was like, okay, this is something I can do. So then I was like, okay, so if I like doing this and I have no skills in this per se, I'm just kind of doing it off my own back. Let me learn more skills about it. Let me go into education and figure out how I can learn more about it and really hone my skills. I was like, I'm not into news broadcasting. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't really want to talk about the world. It kind of depresses me. And as much as it's important, it's just not something that I personally want to go down. So I Googled like culture writing and like masters in culture writing. Then I found the University of Arts, London, and it's like this one in the world opportunity to do this one course that nobody else does. That's how they sold it. It was like, there's nobody else in the world that does this course. And it's a really hard uni to get into. So if you have to be really good and all that jazz. So I applied for it. Didn't think anything of it. I was like, listen, if I get it, I get it. Funny enough, Julie as well, my podcaster host, other podcast host, my best friend, but we'll get into that later. She also applied and we were like, okay, so if we get into this, we can really hone our skills. Because she also did the culture writing at Brunel Times as well. So I was like, okay, we can really, really hone our skills. Let's see if we get it. If we don't, we'll find a job. We'll figure it out, kind of thing. So yeah, then got into it, funny enough. But that was a hard journey. That's a different conversation. That was very difficult. So we got into it and then we met a lot of people through our uni. A lot of it was through nepotism. And then that's where I met my now boss for Vice, Jamie, and I met my now boss for the Daily Express, Paul. Shout out to Paul. It's my bestie. Yeah, that's how I got into journalism. Very long, complicated story.
No. I was listening attentively. That was really interesting. I think for two reasons. One, I definitely get what you were saying, that when, sometimes when you finish your degree, even like whether, you finished it and you don't really know what you want to do next, or, you've done part-time work in other organizations, but you're just like, wow, this isn't really what I thought I'd be doing with my degree. I want to do something more. Yeah, like I completely agree. Like, the same with me, and that's why I was just like you said, go back, do a master's, learn something new, get some skills. And I 100% agree that connect. Well, we always say on the podcast, probably almost every episode, but like it is really true that connections are really important. And you'd be surprised at like how the connections that you build can then lead you to like opportunities to basically develop yourself in the future. And it's always important to remember that. But I think the second thing that's really interesting is how essentially your passion for journalism was always there, even though, it wasn't necessarily exactly, you weren't studying journalism from the get-go. And I think that's really interesting. It's really, it's very, very, very cool.
It was something I was always interested in because in my English degree, we had opportunities to do blogs and stuff like as a creative route of a module. So it was like 19th century literature and we had to create blogs for a specific book. So it was like, what did I pick? I can't remember. I think it was Dorian Gray. No? Yeah, I think it was Dorian Gray. Okay, yeah, shout out to Dorian Gray, one of my favorite books. And then we had to like pick a trope and then talk about it, but in like a blog style. And I was basically reporting on him, how he's a villain, but a victim at the same time. So it was basically just exploring that, but in a blog style. And I was like, oh, I really like this. But even before Brunel, actually, there was a competition to win like an Amazon prize, when you just first start uni and they're like, okay, you can do these interactive things for you to win these stars so you can get money or something. And it was like, write a blog on a topic or something. I don't know the details. It was like, 4 years ago now. Oh my God. I'm so old. It's like 4 years ago now. And I wrote about Meghan Markle and how I don't identify with her because I'm from Barbados and Sri Lanka, and I'm mixed race, but I tend to only identify with my Black side. And Meghan Markle is a mixed race woman, but the media was trying to associate her with just being a Black woman when she's not. She says she's mixed, and rightfully so. She has Eurocentric features, so it's understandable to why she says, hey, I don't really see myself as a Black woman. I haven't lived Black woman experiences. So I was basically talking about that, how I don't identify with Meghan Markle and how you can't grope her into being a Black woman. And I won second prize. So I was like, hey, I might be good at this thing that I've never done before. So yeah, it's been a fun journey discovering that I actually do like doing it. So yeah, that's how I am.
No, that was really like that. Listening to that blog idea, I was just like, wow, that blog sounds really interesting. Yeah, you see, I told you, multi-talented.
I try.
But I guess one thing before we move on to the next question is you mentioned script writing, and it would be wrong of me not to ask, did you ever actually write a script in the end?
Oh no. No. I did for the module that we did it for. And it was a good script. I think I got like one of the highest marks for it. And I was like, cool, this is great. I could be just like to my own horn. I don't actually know. But I think it was up there. It was up there. Definitely up there. And I then sent it off to someone. But I did the edits that my lecturer told me to for it. He was like, oh, if you edit it this way, then it'll be really, really good, because they brought in this like professional guy. It wasn't an actual module guy, but they brought in some other guy, and it was like, yeah, if you just write it in the way that I want it, then it'll be perfect. So I did it and sent it off, and basically all the edits I got back was them complaining about the edits that I did for him. So it was a bit of a catch-22. And then I don't have the time for it. It's very long. It's a super long process. And since I was 18, all I've done is work. So I've been going to uni and work, and there's been a non-stop. So taking time to write a script and be in that creative mind is somewhere that I'm so far removed from that I can't bring myself to do it. But it's in the books. Like I've got some ideas. So it's never a no. It's still there.
Okay. So we'll just have to wait for you to, when you release your new script, and I like a bit of acting myself. So if you're looking for any actors,
okay.
just remember. No, thank you very much. And I guess we're going to move on to our next question. Now, this question, sort of, I guess we touched upon it in the last one, but it was essentially about like, how did your degree help you with your career? And the reason why we're asking this is because I know, as being a uni student, but I know also from friends and family and other people, that sometimes they can feel like my degree did not help me at all with my career choice. It wasn't really relevant. Even if there were some transferable skills, it didn't really give me enough to feel that whatever career I'm working in now, I would have always done that. So I guess I just wanted to know, did your degree essentially help you with your career? And if it did help, how did it help?
Okay. Yes and no, because I would say that I haven't even found like what I want to do yet. So it's helped me to the extent to get me where I am now, but whether it transfers me in the future, I don't know the answer to that question. But my English degree helped me. You can go anywhere with an English degree, to be fair. Like you can literally do anything with it. Anybody was like, oh, you got a degree, what is it? Cool. You can do that and it transfers into something else. So that's fine. And with film, I think it only helped me get into my master's, which is great. I mean, it did something, but I don't think I actually tell a lie, like all the things I'm doing now. So with like podcasting, or even for my master's, I'm doing a documentary for my final major project. So that helped. That was good. So it taught me how to edit. It taught me how to film in ways that I didn't know how to do that before. So it was great. And then the degree I've got now is definitely teaching me like my beat. So if anybody doesn't know that, it's what you specify in journalism. And I'm definitely still trying to find that. I thought I was more of a kind of a profile piece type of person, or talking about cultural issues, especially in the Black community, and like issues that I found prevalent to me. But I've found that I like music more. I find that I like, which is funny because I did went from TV to music, but I found that I like music more, and it's really helping me find my own voice, and it's helping me find that I want to go into different industries within music, not necessarily just journalism. Um, what else has it taught me? I mean, it's giving me the connections, which is wonderful. I do feel like some of the modules are a bit unnecessary and they have not taught me much. Like one of the modules we're doing is a theory module for journalism. Why am I doing theory in journalism? Like classical theorists, like Aristotle. Why am I doing that? It doesn't make any sense. And it's like 4K essays on theory, and it's like, okay, I could be learning something else. Another module was like audio and visual journalism, which I get for the people who haven't studied film. They would need to like get some understanding with that. But for me and my friend Julie, it was just like, okay, we've done this. This is the basic stuff that we've done before. But yeah, I think it's really good. Like one of my lecturers, shout out to Simon, he's really amazing at really trying to get you to hone your craft and hone your talent. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I've taken from my master's alone, is learning how my voice and my style, what I like. So I think that answered your question. I don't know if I waffled a bit too much.
No, that answered it perfectly, and that's so true. That I think, toning your craft, even essentially knowing what your craft is so powerful, because you'll reach a point where you're just like, this is the dream. This is what I want to do. And I feel like, especially, I think we've probably spoken about it before in an episode, but I think it's true that like in nowadays, it is kind of hard to sometimes go back to that message, because you'll see like individuals, gaining instant success, or, you won't necessarily see the journey. And I feel like that's so true, because I mean, if I ever got him on the podcast, I'd be happy. But one of the people as a team, like we really like, is Trevor Noah. And I was listening to a podcast he was on with Kevin Hart, and he was talking about his whole journey of how he hosted The Daily Show, which if you haven't watched before, I definitely would recommend. And he was saying that a lot of people sometimes don't know that like it took him a long time to get there, and like he was doing stand-up comedy shows. He was uploading his content to YouTube at a time when most comedians weren't. So there was a bit of risk with that. And he said like a lot of people just think, like that's, it was overnight success. It was this quick thing, but you're just like, no, success is something that takes its time. And, by knowing his craft and honing it, like it's just true. It's true. There's nothing more important than that, and it's great to hear that your degrees definitely helped you with that. I know for me, example, it's definitely helped me with that as well. And I think one last thing that I'll say is that I think, even because, like I said before, I know there's some people that do their degree and they're generally just like, this just sucked. And is a nice way to put it.
I'm tired of everything though, because you say I've got a degree.
Exactly.
That puts you in the doors. Like the world is so dumb. It's like you need a degree, but you need experience. And so if you got one in the bracket, you're winning. You know what I mean? Like it's something. Because if you have one thing, you don't have the other, it really does hinder you. But if it's not for you, then it's not for you. I don't recommend everybody going to uni if it's not what they actually really want to do. But it's there. You got your degree. It's a foot in the door. You can't say it was absolutely useless when it gets you places.
No, it's true. It's true. And even like that's one of the things that I said when it comes to like work in general, is that it also gets you, like, degrees are a nice way to know what you do and don't want to do when you graduate, because you might be like, oh wow, I love, I don't know, this field, but then you do certain, like you said, certain modules. I think everyone's got that one module in their degree that they're just like, oh gosh, like I've got to do this.
It's so dumb. It actually vexes me. Even now, I have like I've got another one due. No idea what it's on. I should have done it ages ago. I've nearly finished my uni degree and I haven't done it, but it's fine. Hopefully my lecturers aren't listening to this, but it's fine.
But no, it's so true. And I feel like even like knowing what you don't want to do is almost as powerful as knowing what you do want to do, because you'll then be like, yeah, I've done the degree. I know that I don't want to go into this field, or I don't want to study this certain thing, at a master's level or for a PhD. And then you can be like, cool. So I know what I don't like. So now I can start to figure out what I do like from that. So yeah, I definitely agree that that's really true, and it's really powerful. But yeah, going on to our next question, which is, I guess, one of our probably most anticipated questions is, as we mentioned at the start, you have a podcast. Now I'm going to start off this section with our everyone's new and favorite segment, Mic Check, where we put some interesting facts or figures or talk about our experience with stuff. For this one, I would love to say I've got statistics from somewhere, but to be honest, from the amount of times I've heard it, I'm sure people know it. But us, I guess both of us here included, but you might know some friends and family that are doing it as well. Podcasts seem to be the new thing. Everyone's able to start a podcast. There are a lot of stats that show that people are going into podcasting. More people are listening to podcasts because rather than necessarily watching stuff, because it's a nice, easy way for you to do things. You can listen to it while doing other things. You can listen to it while studying or working or whatever. So with that in mind, podcasting being a booming space, it's really important to know why people start podcasts. And we've previously explained as a team why we started ours. And I'm sure the audience are probably tired of hearing me say it, so I won't go into detail about it now. But I guess I just wanted to ask, what inspired you to start your podcast with Julie? And I guess before we even ask you what inspired you, could you also just let us know what your podcast is about? Because there might be some people listening going, wow, I'm hearing a lot about this podcast, but I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure what it's about and what they talk about.
So For Why is the name of our podcast. So Julie and I are from very opposing backgrounds. So she's from Luxembourg. She grew up in Luxembourg and came to the UK for university. And I'm from Southeast London. I'm from Croydon. I don't know why people just don't say where they're from. I'm from Croydon. Shout out to Croydon. Shout out to all my gang. And I grew up in a working class background, really grinding and struggling. And I'm obviously from two different races, and she is white and she grew up in a middle class background. So we're very opposing, but we have such similar views, which is very powerful and very amazing to see. But obviously our different cultures and different backgrounds influences our different answers as well. So we were like, okay, this is cool. We'll talk about things that really stresses us. What really got us going was our English module. There was violence. And we had to do a creative project. We had to do a creative project, either a film, a presentation, or a podcast on something that was violent. And we could do it in a group or as an individual. And we were like, okay, we can do this together. We can do a podcast, cheeky podcast. We can just see what happens. This will be fun. We like talking. I think we're quite funny. I think we bounce off each other really well. We got good energy. So I feel like this will be really good. So we did racism in our different countries and what it was like with her and how she saw racism in her country and what she saw when she came here and how it was different and how I experienced racism and what it's like growing up in London, basically, with racism. So we started with that. And we were like, oh, we actually really enjoyed this. This is kind of cool. We actually have some kind of good ideas. And then our lecturer was like, yeah, this is great. This is amazing. Da, 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 da. That kind of fills your ego a bit. So you're like, okay, maybe we should keep going with this. Maybe we can get somewhere with this. So we continued and we did it. We tried to do it as much as possible, but then lockdown hit just after that. And we were on Zoom, but my Wi-Fi is terrible. And my computer is terrible. So it's improved now, obviously, but it was just really bad. So the audio is a bit bad for a couple of them. But once we got to UAL, there's a podcast studio. And we're like, this is amazing. This is really cool. So it's professional mics, professional headphones, and they have professional cameras that we can book out. So we're like, okay, we'll be really consistent with it. So every time we had lessons, we would then film a podcast. And it was going really well. We even got to a point where it was going really good, but then uni finished. And then we started working and it's a bit fallen off now, but we plan to get back into it. Once we're back into a schedule and sorting out finishing uni and sorting our kind of individual schedules, then we should be all right. But yeah, that's why we got into podcasting, and that's our podcast.
Wow, thank you. And I'm sure our listeners are waiting with anticipation for when they can see the next episode, because I've quickly just looked over some of your episodes before, and I think it is really cool that you guys talk about like such a wide variety of stuff. Like you guys have spoken about dating shows, you spoke about creativity and mental health. We'll include the link in the notes, show notes below and in the description, so you can check out the episodes. But yeah, no, so I think it's really powerful that, I've always said, even like with us doing a podcast, that it is just a nice way to meet new people and learn things about them. But also it is nice to have, a space to have conversations, discuss, issues and things like that. And I think kind of like, linking to what you said at the start or towards the start of the episode, that with yourself, you were saying that you didn't want to necessarily go into journalism about politics and things like that. I feel like that's really apparent in your podcast, because you don't necessarily, like, I'm not saying you don't discuss anything serious, like you do have like you do, like, I don't want people to say that I'm backtracking my word and I'm saying anything wrong. No,
it's okay, Jeffrey, I understand. It's fine. We're not serious. It's okay.
No, but it's so, I really like that. I think I'm sure you must have heard of him, Munya Chihuahua, who does like loads of like YouTube, not YouTube skits, Instagram skits about like stuff that's happened in the news and stuff. He was on a podcast called How to Fail, and he was saying like one of the reasons why he loves doing what he does is because he's not necessarily like making fun of people or like, making fun of things that happen in the news. He's like making it fun for people, because he's just like, to be honest, there's enough to worry people in the world that you don't need to be adding to that worry. But instead, whether it's you're creating a podcast and you're discussing, I don't know, support services, or you're talking about people who failed and successful, or you're talking about your favorite thing, it gives people that option to, like come in to just, not think about what's going on in the world and just listen to someone discussing something that they're passionate about or something they want to learn more about. And I think that is always a nice thing, because it gives you that opportunity to not have to be so stressed and so worried about the things that go on in our world. And there's a lot, but it's nice to have those moments of just peace, and you're just not thinking about them, you're just thinking about podcasts and what you're listening to. So thank you. Not only, I guess, not only for starting a podcast, but for the amazing work that both yourself and Julie do. It's really cool.
No, actually, we were looking at you guys, because I was like, oh, Julie, like, by the way, like, pick up the mic, reach out to me. And I was like, oh, really? That's so cool. I was like, yeah. And I was like showing her like what you sent me, like the package that you sent me about reading through and consent and stuff, and the different things that you guys did. And she was like, wow, we are really slacking. And I was like, I know, they're really professional. And it's like, you guys are really doing amazing, because like the way you guys took us to shame, we were like, wow, this is really good. Like, we're just
I have to butt in there and be like, it wasn't, it took time. It took a lot of time. Took a lot of time, a lot of effort. Because I know even like as a team, we go like when sometimes we like, I don't know, like we look back and see people like listen to like our first episode quite a bit, and we're just like, gosh, we hear that and we're just like, oh gosh, we just sounded so awful. Oh. Like even editing the episodes is sometimes like, I'm just like at the start I was just like, okay, let me just listen to it, but it is so hard listening to your own voice and you speaking, and you're just like, do I really sound like this? Like, oh god. Well,
100%. Even just looking back at our recent ones, I'm like, oh, our energy was dead here. You can really see like we're not giving much, or it's like, oh, we could have done better here. And it's like, oh, your listeners are gonna like you for you, and you kind of just confirm it because it's up there now. It's too late. But you guys are doing a great job, honestly. Credit.
Thank you. Oh, no, thank you very much. And I think one thing I'll say before we go into the next one is 100%. I know what you mean, that sometimes, whether it's to do with the time you're recording or, where it fits in your schedule, that sometimes even as like a team, we're sometimes like, like even when we're not speaking, obviously, we're like when yourselves as guest speakers speak, sometimes we just like look deadpan, and there was like a period of time that like as a team, so myself and Anushka and Samuel, who I guess are sort of my co-founders, we would just basically like take screenshots of each other's and the faces like that we were making, like whether we were like while we were listening, because sometimes I don't know, like you see people and they're just like really listening attentively, but they just look really deadpan. So like in our group, so we literally have a group chat and we would just like, so we'd just be sending shots of each other and they'd just be like, oh gosh, like, are you okay? Like you just. I was like, oh, no, I was just listening. Like I was just really engaged in the conversation, but I just looked like I was just so unbothered. But no, it's so true. But no, thank you very much for that. And it's really really nice to hear those kind words. But like I said, 100%. The work that you guys are doing, like I don't feel like it's not good. It's 100% good. And even when I found out about your podcast off, I think maybe like last year, I think, or it's definitely like not recent. And I was just like, wow, these guys are doing amazing. And when I saw you guys recording in person, I was like, wow, these guys have got a studio and everything. They've got a professional camera. I was like, wow, these guys are, they're podcasting like like professionals,
like proper podcasters. Yeah, no. Not anymore. And it's gonna be painful going back to like Amazon microphones and having just a Nikon camera. Like it's just gonna be so painful because the quality was so high, and I was gonna go back down there. So I think we'll invest into our podcast before we start back up because I'm used to quality, so I want to go back to that quality being fantastic.
Okay. One thing or one tip, I guess, and it's good for anyone listening who's thinking of maybe starting a podcast. I know there's this place called Pirate Studio. So they've got a few places around London, studios around. To be honest, they've got a few around the world, but I know within London they've got quite a few. And my brothers use them for like, so they do like music production space. They've got a podcasting space. They've got like a drum DJ space, a drum. If you want to test out drum kits or music equipment, you can do it there as well. But yeah, they're quite cheap, I think, because they're open like 24 hours. So, I mean, personally, I've never done it, but if someone wants to record their podcast at 12 in the morning, they are more than welcome to. They're open then. If someone wants to record it during the day, they can do that. But obviously, like when you record it and the days that you record it depend on the pricing. But it's usually about like £20 for an hour, and you have like professional mics and stuff. You can ask like if you can bring like certain equipment like cameras and stuff. But yeah, they're my brother said that they're really good. So yeah, if anyone's listening, if you want to try it yourself, Shania, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
But yeah, Pirate Studio is the recommendation from Jeffrey today. So that's my that's my one recommendation for today.